the Muslim secessionist group in the Philippines. These are the key points of the Muslim secessionist movement. First, the arrival of the Spanish conquistador in the 16th century, the Jabida Massacre, the formation of the Mindanao Independence Movement or MIM, the rise of the student activism in the 1960s, and the birth of the Moro National Liberation Front.
150,000 killed, 640 billion pesos in economic losses, 3.5 million people forced out of their homes. It's a war that has raged for more than 4 decades. Long before the Spaniards discovered the Philippines, sultanates existed in Mindanao. These communities refused to be governed by Spain. That didn't stop Spain from including the Sultanate of Sulu in territories ceded to the United States after losing the Spanish-American War. Muslim resistance continued under the Americans. Tensions culminated in the Battle of Buddaho in Jolo. 1,000 Moros fought American troops. Only 6 survived. Tausugs fought American soldiers again in Budbagsak. The fight lasted 4 days. Again, thousands were killed. These 2 battles would become 2 of the lasting symbols of the Moro Rebellion. Under the Americans, Christian Filipinos were encouraged to make Mindanao their home. At the start of U.S. colonial rule, 98% of residents in Mindanao were Muslims. The influx reduced the Muslim population to 40% by 1976. As of 2005, it's down to only 20%. The Moros became the minority in their own homeland. Under the Marcos regime, Muslim trainees were massacred in Corregidor Island, Bataan, to cover up a failed military plot to reclaim neighboring Sabah that used to be part of the Sulu Sultanate. It went down in history as the Jabida Massacre. The massacre gave birth to rebellion. It inspired university professor Nur Miswari to form the Moro National Liberation Front, or the MNLF. In 1974, fighting erupted after army troops stopped the MNLF from hoisting their flag in Jolo. A 2-day battle ensued. The center of Jolo was burned down and 20,000 died. War came to Mindanao.
The Jabida Massacre on March 18, 1968 was the purported assassinations or executions of Moro Army recruits who allegedly mutinied upon learning the true nature of their mission. It is acknowledged as a major flashpoint that ignited the Moro insurgency in the Philippines. The Muslim secessionist movement in southern Philippines in the mid-1970s was the most serious threat to the stability of the country.
How the Muslim secessionist movement came into being. Leveraging on the dissatisfaction of the Muslims acquired by the Jabida Massacre and their disadvantaged plight under the Marcos government, former governor of the Cotabato province Haji Odog Matalam initiated an open movement for secession of the Muslim state through the formation of the Mindanao Independence Movement or MIM.
Muslim Independence Movement. On the 1st of May 1968, Dad Haji Odog Matalam, a former governor of Cotabato, issued a manifesto for the declaration of the Muslim Independent Movement that sought for an independent Muslim state from the Philippines comprising Mindanao, Sulu, and Palawan regions, which would be known as the Republic of Mindanao and Sulu. It embodies the Islamic ideals and heritage and is therefore independent from the Philippines. The main objective of the movement is to create a separate Muslim state, while at the very least, it aims for the formation of a Muslim autonomous government for the region comprising the islands of Mindanao, Basilan, Sulu, Tawi-Tawi and Palawan. People from various Muslim sectors joined the movement. Farmers displaced by Christian settlers saw in the movement an opportunity to get back their lands. Students and intellectuals were moved by their social duty, while adventurous and impatient youngsters wanted to test their fighting prowess. Others simply joined because their friends and relatives were in the movement. Rise of student activism in the 1960s. Muslim students studying there were caught up in them, raising their political, economic and social awareness. The student protest activities in Manila against the Marcos regime gradually influenced the thinking of Muslim students. Their focus of discontent shifted from the Christian sector of the Filipino society to that of the administration of President Marcos itself. Many of these young Muslim students and intellectuals became Marxist-inspired and formed their own clandestine group to initiate change. Nur Misuari provided the leadership for the young Muslims. The National Liberation Front. It is a political organization in the Philippines that was founded in 1972. It started as a splinter group of men. The MNLF was the leading organization among Moro separatists for about 2 decades in 1970s. In 1996, the MNLF signed a landmark peace agreement with the Philippine government, the Final Peace Agreement, also called the Jakarta Accord, and was signed on September 2, 1996 in Manila, Philippines by Manuel Yan, representing the government of the Philippines, and Nur Misuari of the Moro National Liberation Front. The MNLF leadership tried to develop an ideology that gave emphasis to Moro nationalism and social reform to obtain both foreign Islamic support and the support of the local Muslim community. Integration of former rebels in the society was also a factor in the weakening. There was also a case of defections of Moro Islamic Liberation Front fighters to MNLF. Was formally established in 1980 as a splinter movement of the MNLF in 1977. A group based in Mindanao, is the largest militant organization in the Philippines seeking an autonomous region of Moro people from the central government. Although it was generally inactive and did not call itself the MILF until 1984. The MILF controls territory in the southern Philippines, governing by Sharia law. It has generally focused on political negotiation, but it has a significant history of terrorism and militancy. Traditionally, most of MILF violent activities have taken the form of orthodox guerrilla warfare with hit-and-run attacks directed against Philippine military. In 2014, the MILF concluded peace negotiations with the Philippine government for an autonomous region in the southern Philippines, to be called the Bangsamoro Government. Moro Islamic Armed Forces BIAF. MILF are organized into wing known as the Bangsamoro Islamic Armed Forces BIAF, or the Bangsamoro Islamic Freedom Fighters BIFF. It is an Islamist militant organization based in Mindanao, Philippines. It seeks an independent Islamic state for the Filipino Muslim minority, known as the Moro people, who live primarily in the Philippines Mindanao region. The BIFF was founded in 2010 by Emeril Umbricado as a splinter group of the Moro Islamic Liberation Front. It is possible that BIF participated in the Battle of Marawi of 2017, also known as the Siege of Marawi.
Bangsamoro. The term Bangsamoro is derived from the Old Malay word Bangsa, or race or nation, and Moro, the collective term for the various predominantly Muslim ethnic groups in the Philippines, from the Spanish for Moors.
Abu Sayyaf Group. The Abu Sayyaf Group is the most violent of the Islamic separatist groups operating in the southern Philippines. Founded by Abdur-i Abubakar Janjalani in 1991. It seeks an independent Islamic state for the Filipino Muslim minority, known as the Moro people, who live primarily in the Philippines Mindanao region. The ASG also aims to expel the Christian settlers who migrated to Mindanao from other regions in the Philippines such as Luzon and the Visayas. Throughout the 1990s, the ASG gained recognition by turning to violence, engaging in bombings, kidnapping, assassinations, and other attacks with a special focus on Christians and foreigners. It's unclear whether the group's recent dedication to ISIS is motivated by the material and social support it gives them, or by genuine belief. Most likely, it is some undefinable combination of both motivations. Its initial response to the escalating conflict during the first quarter of 1973 was to put more troops into the troubled area. By the first week of March 1973, the situation became very serious to require presidential action. Military operations against the rebels started on June 6, 1973.
In 1976, Miswari and dictator Ferdinand Marcos signed the Tripoli Agreement. The deal created an autonomous region in the Moro strongholds, but only 4 provinces voted for autonomy. The peace accord failed. The gun battles resumed until the MNLF signed a peace pact with the Ramos administration in 1996. Miswari became the first governor of the autonomous region in Muslim Mindanao. But peace remained elusive. Only 5 provinces and 1 city voted to join the regional government. Miswari's reign was marred by corruption and mismanagement. His failed peace set the stage for the rise of the MNLF's breakaway group, the Moro Islamic Liberation Front. The Ramos administration initiated talks with the MILF led by its founder, Salamat Hashim. Talks collapsed when former President Joseph Estrada declared all-out war against the MILF. Negotiations resumed under the Arroyo administration. The MILF agreed to drop its fight for independence in exchange for full autonomy. But talks again collapsed when the Supreme Court struck down the agreement that would create a sub-state in Muslim Mindanao. After 17 years of negotiations, the MILF finally signed a peace deal with the Aquino administration in March 2014. The deal aims to create an autonomous region that would be responsive to the needs and history of the Moros. In exchange, the MILF would decommission 10,000 to 15,000 troops and thousands of firearms. It is the biggest step towards closing Mindanao's painful history of violence. Are we willing to take the next difficult steps?
Our goal to have the Bangsamoro Transition Authority in place by 2015, when it will serve as the interim Bangsamoro government until the elections in 2016. In this manner, the people themselves will turn the tide of strife into an era of peace and equitable progress. They themselves will prove that the democratic space is vast enough to address every Filipino's grievances and concerns.
Live now to Mindanao, Al Jazeera's Jamila Ilandogan is with us. Jamila, after years of conflict, 17 years of negotiations, why now? What's happened to bring about this peace agreement?
Well, a lot of that is being a confluence of events. In fact, in particular, really, the political will of the president of the administration of President Benigno Aquino, really the desire from both sides really to find a solution. It means a lot for millions of Filipinos here in Southern Mindanao, in particular Muslim Filipinos, who have long felt that they have long been misunderstood by the rest of the country. The bigger challenge really ahead right now is the implementation. It's going to be very difficult. In particular, the decommissioning, the laying down of weapons of thousands and thousands, tens of thousands of fighters who have long been used to this culture of insurgency, this culture of rebellion. Now they are forced and they have to go back to civilian life.